And there's so many stories in this book that talk about your childhood, talk about some of the times that you had with Elnora growing up, some situations and conflict with your mother. I want to read something here. In the introduction of your book, you said, "This is a story about perseverance, heartache, determination, belief in a dream, and overcoming adversity." That's what this book is about. That's what your journey is about. So then I want to turn here and I want to read something that really hit me when I was looking. And such a lovely book, by the way, and very
Thank
informative.
you.
I looked at my wife and I said, and my wife's an avid reader, Brandy. And when I was preparing for the interview, I said, "Babe, you have to read this book because it just drew me in." Sometimes when I do these interviews, I'll skim a book. I'll look over the book and I'll kind of review a few pages of each chapter and get some talking points. But this one wasn't that way. I couldn't stop reading it when I picked it up. So that says a lot about this. It's very real life and raw, but I want to read this. You said this about your mother. You said, "Mother had little time for me. And when she did pay attention to me, it was to fix something that was wrong about me. Being born pigeon-toed hadn't helped. From that moment on," and this is the line that got me, "I became the child that needed to be fixed." Are you still that kind of person that needs to be fixed? Do you feel that way now?
Well, I guess that influenced me a lot growing up. They say that, when you're a baby until the time you're 6 years old, you are imprinting a permanent, like something on your hard drive, and that stays with you for life. I think that for me, I always felt like I had to do a little extra. I had to be a little nicer. I had to do a little more than everybody else. I had to pay more attention to my clothes and what I wore and how I looked and how I acted than anybody else, because I had to make up for whatever it is that was wrong with me. Because as you read in the book, probably, I used to go around and I'd say to Elnora, not to Mother, "Elnora, am I adopted?" And she'd say back to me, "No, child, you're not adopted. Why do you keep asking that?" And I said, "I feel adopted." And then I learned much later in my life, I began counseling after my husband Paul and I divorced, and the counselor told me that I had been emotionally abandoned by my mother. And she said, "That is really more crazy making than being physically abandoned, because you can't figure out why you feel that way, because your parents, or in this case my mother, was still there. But it's like one of Hank Cochran mentioned later in one of his songs, even when you're here, you're still gone." That's the way my mother was. She was like she was there, but she wasn't there. And so I just made up my mind, as I said in the book, I was just going to be helpful and be a high achiever.
Right.
And that way I could make up for whatever it was that was wrong with me. And I guess that really kind of helped me with my careers. And
Sure. And your perseverance. And the good thing is, and I like what you said, you received counseling, you got help. You were like, "I need somebody to help me with what I'm dealing with here," and you went and done that. And it's tough. It would have to be tough, and I've not been there, but for you to have a mother who was not nurturing, was not hands-on, but just trying to fix you all the time, including when she thought you were too skinny. So she takes you to the doctor, and the doctor gives you medicine, which you call in your book a liquid. You took the liquid, and it made you want to eat like crazy.
Absolutely.
And so then you got a little big, and she said, "You're too big." So you just felt like you couldn't be good enough for her, right?
I couldn't win. Either way I went, I felt like I couldn't win. And so I just did the best I could with what I had to work with, and I tried to stay out of her way. And I read a lot when I was a young girl, and I did a lot of needlework and and wrote a lot of poems, and just did a lot of creative things and things that I could do on my own. And it really was like my therapy. And I loved movies, and so when TV came out, I was always glued to the TV, but I was always wanting to go to the movies, and I always wanted to be an entertainer, I think.